I was born 58 years ago today. That was during the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis, and I was born in a place called Cuba, New York, which is in the middle of a great big maple forest at the southwestern corner of the state. Not really that far from places like Cleveland and Pittsburgh, quite a bit more distant from New York City. That might be considered to be a rough time to be born, but as I was a kid growing up, I think that most of us who grew up in probably the 50s or the 60s realize it was perhaps the best time to be an American, even though in the late 1960s there was turmoil in some places. In small town America, it just didn't happen. I can recall going to work, all right, school. It seemed like work at times. I can recall walking to school, and I would leave the house and I would walk downhill and I would cross an old wooden bridge. Then I would hang a right turn and go down another hill past a grove of trees, hang a left turn, walk by my favorite park where we would go sledding in winter, hang another right turn over a second bridge, and then at the bottom of the hill, hang a left turn, and half a block down was my school. In autumn, as the leaves started falling off the trees, some mornings you could be walking along and no one had yet raked the leaves from sidewalks. And as you walked along, you would hear sh, 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 as the leaves rustled beneath your feet. And we would scuff them along anyway just to get that sound going. On really sunny days, it still would be quite cool. You could see your breath and the experience. I don't know. It's one of those things that never leaves you. It's just a beautiful, beautiful experience. And I can recall that winter would then come and it would be nasty. And so I look back on that era and I think a little bit about where we've come in this country over the last 50 years. I know a lot of people who grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, aughts, maybe even in the last decade, think that that was the best time to grow up to be an American. But during the 50s and 60s, everybody knew that their country was number one. Been a rough 50 years when it comes to that. There are a lot of people out there who doubt American exceptionalism, and many of them look poised to take power come January. If I'm getting everything right by the polls that I see and what I hear in mainstream media, it's pretty much a fait accompli. And when that happens, we're going to be moving in the direction and very quickly of socialism in this country. I happened to read this morning. I didn't see the program. I don't buy HBO, but I happened to read this morning where Bill Maher on his program on HBO Friday night actually chewed out Representative Adam Schiff, pointing out that Schiff is a national representative, but still saying, we got problems in California. And he said, a lot of people I know are packing up and leaving. And then he started citing the number of businesses that have packed up and moved out of the state. And it's in the thousands over the course of the last decade. And he said simply, taxes are too high, regulation is too much. We've got to do something about this. Now, this is coming from a guy who you would consider to be a flaming liberal. Schiff gave it, well, he shuffled it off, is what he did. He said, yeah, we've got to work on a few of these things. But even if liberals can recognize there's trouble ahead, then why are we going down this road where we're thinking that we're going to have control of Democrats in both the House and Senate and in the White House, and perhaps even in many other state houses? There has been a strain of thought in a lot of the journals that I read, National Review, Washington Examiner, the Wall Street Journal, that's a daily newspaper, but I read these things, and the stream of thought with many of the writers is that California, the government, the way it operates there, is what is going to become our nationwide culture. That is a little depressing to think about when you consider that they have no money left to cover expenses. The roads are filled with potholes. The bridges are falling down. They they can't build the choo-choo train they plan to build, the high-speed train. And so there's just this gradual decline that has been going on. And somehow you've got people in academia, mainstream media, and entertainment and politics. And again, not everyone in entertainment. Some of those people, because they've made a good deal of money, they start to realize it. Ronald Reagan, if you remember, was a Democrat. And then when he started realizing what he was forking over in taxes, he had an epiphany. I don't think that's going to happen for Bill Maher, but just pointing out it can happen for a few people. But if you've seen the damage that's been inflicted by this, why would you want to take it nationwide? What we're going to have happen in this country if this continues, and I really do fear that it's going to break apart, You'll have the left coast, which will keep going down that road. You'll have the Great Lakes and parts of the Northeast. You're going to have, though, a lot of other places in America that simply are not going to put up with it. And I don't think that we're going to have some sort of war as we had back in the 1860s. My impression is the other side will be glad to see us go. They call us deplorables. They think we live in stinking crap holes, and they would just as soon let us go because they believe that where they live in Seattle, Portland, or San Francisco, that is the height of human civilization. It's funny though when you sit back and you read the stories about the number of people leaving some of these big cities, New York and other various places. It just once again they're walking around with blinders on. I worry for my country. I worry for the future. I'm 58, and I look around and realize that my days are numbered. But I do worry for children and grandchildren because they're never going to experience. They may still get to experience walking through leaves on a cool fall day, but after fall, we're followed by winter. And if we get into an extended winter in this country, uh, God help us all. If you like our videos, please click on the subscribe button above. You can also leave me comments in the comments section below, and I'll do whatever I can to get back to the comments. If you've got any ideas you wanted to share and want us to pass along, we'll try to do that as well. My name is Bill Colley. This is Boardwalk Potatoes, and of course, my regular co-host is Jake Smith, but Jake is traveling this weekend. We'll be seeing Jake again in a few days.